Come on, come on! Oh, not again. Why does this always happen? Hello, future people. If I've kept this audio and not decided to record over it afterwards, then that will have worked in with what I was saying. A couple of weeks ago now, I did a review of the original Mortal Realms issue and said that I was going to subscribe, at least for the moment. And I'm going to try and go through this one a little bit faster than the previous one, because we've kind of seen what it is now. But I just thought I'd follow up to see what future issues are like. So, the second shipment that you receive is both of these for $13 or something? I don't remember the exact price. But, ignoring the audio for a second, because that's a delightful noise. Right, so, we do get a thing of Corax White. People that are not overly familiar with the Citadel paints will not know why I'm pointing this out, but for those of us that are, yeah, let's see how this one turns out. There goes my paintbrush. Got some nice looking models here. I should know what these are, but I'm going to double check what they're actually called in a minute, because that's not the focus here. And the brush that you receive is just the standard starter brush, so that's fine. I'm going to kind of repeat what I said in the first initial review. If you are buying brushes, do not buy these brushes. 100%. I know that Citadel brushes have their fans. My personal opinion is that most of that is based on nostalgia or never having used the opposition. I would recommend almost everybody else over Citadel brushes. But this comes with it. It's worth it for the price, and hey, it's essentially free. So, issue number 2. So they're the Banshees. I have a feeling that this one's mainly going to concentrate on Nagash's stuff, because that would make sense. That's what comes with it. Bit here on the Wailing Dead and Nagash. Nagash is just awesome. Everything about Nagash is awesome. Talks a bit about the Soul Wars, which of course is the box set that these all come from initially. How to build the Banshees. Now, these particular Banshees are actually the proper kits. So for those of you who are new to the product, what does that mean? It means they're not quite push fit like the previous ones were. That's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing either. It's just that they're not simple models where you push them together and they hold themselves together. You will actually have to use glue with these. Now, this is what I had criticism for them on last time, because last issue, this was just a advertisement pretty much for their product. So, what does this say? Once you've assembled the minis, it's important to start applying paint to them. For many people, it's the exciting... That's still the same thing again. Oh no, it goes further. Okay, nope, that's fine. No, this still feels... I'm sorry, but this still feels... Okay, so the Citadel water pot. I have not used this one. I'm quite happy with a standard water pot. I haven't heard anything bad about it, but I don't think it's worth the price you pay for it. It is designed to hold your brushes, which is a benefit. Obviously, the paints we are familiar with now. Talks a bit about the palette. How to get paint on your brush. Oh. Okay. I want to talk about this. Because this particular magazine is not aimed for those of us that have been in the hobby for a long time. This is designed to bring new people into the hobby, because that's generally what most of these collections do. It's usually collected by people that have been interested in something but have never picked it up. This talks about getting paint onto your brush, and it doesn't go any further than that. The problem with that is that you are supposed to put the paint onto the palette so that you can control how much paint you have in your brush. Do not paint straight from the pot. You want to water your paints down. There's lots of online resources you can go to get a better idea of that. But without having read this word for word, I would not take this at face value. When I say watering your stuff down, I'm not talking about drowning your paint in water, but just adding water to it. It'll flow easier. These issues actually also talk about painting straight onto the model, which is not an ideal way to do it. But you'll see, it actually does kind of, I don't know how clear that is on camera. It actually does kind of show that you need to do multiple coats of the white, because I don't know how clear that is, but it will come out very blotchy in the first couple of goes. But yeah, it is what it is. If you have the option of putting them in a primer, that would definitely be my choice. There is another video on our channel that I will link to in the show notes with a product that you may find very helpful if you have an airbrush. You can also use it with a brush. Whether you do it with spray cans or you do it with an airbrush is another matter. An airbrush is a very, very wonderful tool that is not as hard to learn as most people try to make it sound like it is. And there's nothing about using an airbrush that is cheating, unlike some people will have you think as well. It's just another tool. Here we go. We've got a bit of a story here on the chain rasps. That is... Oh, here we go. So it's another mission that you can play in. That's fine. So this particular one is the Banshees versus the Sequidors, which is the three guys from the first issue. You've got an option here for countering attacks. Okay. So this is still simple, very much like the first one, but still feels alright. The third issue is where things are going to get interesting. This issue is the question of whether I will stick on or not. That I find interesting. I need to look up how much the magazines are over here. Because that seems expensive. Sorry, because that seems expensive. Is it in this one or is it in the other one? This one that I've just pulled out is the poster that comes with the first one. Nope, it's not that. Nope, it's not on there. I will double check the price on that and I will come back to it. Another note on this. in my last episode, I kind of pointed out how poorly that is done. A friend of mine purchased these as well, and his did not come like that. Mine has been like completely screwed up. That's not the only problem I've come across, but I'm going to come to that at the end. Here we go, issue 3. So, back to the Stormcast Eternals. This one comes with 4 models. You can tell that because they all have bases. I'll have to double check what these models are again. This one comes with a Gryph-hound. For those that are not familiar with a Gryph-hound, it's a griffin, but a dog. If the name didn't give it away. However, I may have mentioned this on the original video, but this is Retributor armor. One of the best golds on the market. From everything that I've heard. I have not used this myself yet. I will be trying it out at some point. But I'll have to wait until I've finished my Skaven pledge, because they don't use gold. And obviously, I made a pledge. So I'm going to stick to that. Issue number 3. Talking about the Stormcast Eternals, so that's fairly obvious. I suspect that's going to be a fairly similar thing. They'll obviously go from one to the other each issue by the looks of that. So these are Hammers of Sigmar. So they're the Castigors that we've received this time. Cool. Here's another thing I like. And for those of us that are in the hobby already, it shouldn't be overly shocking, but the armies, generally speaking, can be flavoured to your own thing. You don't have to paint them to look exactly the way that they look. You can paint them to be however you want. And it's nice that they're introducing that to people that are new to the hobby very early. Because, I mean, myself, I was always someone that's not really a gold person. I'm not a huge... I don't hate the colour gold. It's just not what I ever wanted to paint my armies. And if I had have gotten 6 months into the hobby and then realised that my Blood Angels did not have to have gold trim, I kind of would have gotten frustrated, I think. Herder build continues to be done well. Okay. Okay, good. They have already fixed the issue that I that I pointed out. So here it's talking about shaking up your paints, transferring it onto the surface, and then to thin it out with some water, and then pick some more up. So that is good. They have actually fixed the problem that I had with it. Talks here about Corax White again. Because this is a strong base colour, it should hold up a lot, but I would still feel more comfortable with people using an actual primer first. Just because if you keep on doing this, you're going to lose detail eventually. I don't quite understand why you would want the base to be gold, but that's just me. At this point, this is obviously the only paints that you would have, because you're new to the hobby and the only 2 paints you have are going to be the ones that they've given you. So I suppose that makes sense. And then we will go into our next mission, which is all nice and interesting. Actually, going back, who are we using? Chain Rasps. Oh, so this is using the Chain Rasps, which is from the first issue, against the Gryph-hound and the Castigors. So that's interesting. We're not actually scaling up in our battles yet, which surprises me. I would have thought that they would start going up. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to be stopping my subscription at this point, because I don't really have any care for these models. I haven't used this paint, so I don't have an opinion on it. but I don't see myself using it enough to justify the price of the full magazine, which I may actually look up for you while I'm here, because I want to double check the full price of the magazines. But while that's loading, this is the pack of the first gift that you receive. Now, for those that don't remember, you are supposed to be receiving the clippers, the plastic glue, and they call it a mold line remover, but it's very clearly the old one. But this is not what they send you. And I want to make this very clear, because in my last episode I kind of talked about the community feeling of the old sandpaper ones were much more popular. I would not have had a problem with them supplying the new modern version if they hadn't have just sent us what is a broken one. So, I know that those of us that are already in the community know what these are. The actual tool that this is actually really good. I'm a big fan of them. But there's supposed to be a handle on this, which is clearly not here. Now, for those that are wondering, I do not believe this is a mistake, because both myself and my friend both received them like this. When he received his, I told him that he should contact them, because it was clearly an error. But, very clearly it's not. This is deliberate and planned this way. These are supposed to work where you got a flat edge here and a curved edge here. So if you had a mold line on a flat edge, you could use this. If it's on anything else, you can kind of use that and kind of pick the bit that closely matches it. And the idea is supposed to be that you're, say if this line that you see in the plastic here was a mold line, you're supposed to be able to like shave it down using it. Now you could actually use this. Like, I'm not actually having issues with this per se. But it's not what was advertised. I actually prefer the modern tool personally over the sandpaper one. However, most people that I've always heard prefer the sandpaper one. But if you're going to supply one, you need to supply one. You can't just provide a faulty one to get rid of it, which is what this feels like they've done to me. I realise there's only so much they can do to keep in with the value of it, but this is an old item. It's not the new version. I have the new version, and it is roughly the same size. But what you'll notice, if I bring the new version up, this is one solid piece of metal all the way through. This is the original one that still had the black handle like these. There actually was one, but they didn't exist for very long. They've obviously imported these from whoever used to manufacture them for them. I actually do quite like this tool. I've had multiples of these now, because one of them went missing at one point. The thing that people prefer these over this with is because this is a metal handle, and they're very slippery in the fingers. So some people find that very frustrating. I actually don't mind them. They do fit in the hand nicely. They feel premium. I don't think they are, but they do feel premium. And it's plastic glue. It's plastic glue. So, yay plastic glue. But, yeah. This is probably the end of my line, personally, when it comes to my... Not because of this. This was a decision that was going to come anyway. For the same reasons that I said last time. For someone that's already in the hobby, the $20 a month... I mean, the next issue, I'm going to get 4 models, which are fine models. I mean, like, saying I don't have need for them. It's not because they're horrible. And a paint. Now, the paint and those probably come close with the magazine. It's not a great value at $20. It's not terrible value. It's just not great value. This character that you receive in issue 5, you would be paying more than that for the character alone if you were to buy it from the market. However, I'm not saying it's worth that. However, the one thing I was going to do is check the local pricing. So, okay, so in Australia, these after issue 3, issue 3 and after are being sold at $13.99. Sorry, at $19.99, but it's the better part of £8. So how much of Australians being ripped off? $5 per issue. It's not a small amount. But in saying that, it's not. Postage would be a lot less than that. But it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So yeah, it's not great, but it's certainly not. The value for us in this magazine is nowhere near as good as the value that it was for people in the UK. And the responses in the UK were all right, but they weren't groundbreaking. I'll just put that out there. It certainly is not the biggest argument when it comes to the way things are structured in Australia price-wise. But it's $5 locally, so you're looking at £3 extra, £2.50 extra. It's not huge, but it does affect value. I'll leave it there, guys. As I said, I'm going to be cancelling this because for me, there's just not going to be enough value in it for me because I don't actually collect either of these armies. I have other plans for the models in this. If you're someone that's new to the hobby, these magazines are going to be a lot more valuable to you than they are to me. I will probably only hold on to these long enough to read through them properly, and I don't see myself keeping these. If there's somebody locally that follows us that would like my first 3 issues, like the actual magazines, feel free to get in touch. I'm quite happy to send them to you. Not the models, just the magazines. Otherwise, they're going to go in the recycling after about a month or so. Because, again, I'm not going to have value out of this for me personally. New players will, definitely. But there's not going to be much value in it for me. Thank you. I have been Jason the Bruce, and I'll catch you next time.